Okay, so, one of the hardest things in the gaming industry is to create a successful game based on a movie franchise. The second hardest thing is to do it again. Or the other way around, I'm not sure. But what if I haven't even seen that franchise? Why should I care? And why should you care? Did the developers create this game with only Star Wars fans in mind, or did they create something anyone can enjoy? Time to find out in this episode of I lived under a rock and have not watched the Star Wars movies, so I decided to capitalize on that. Because it's important. As fun as a game made just to insert references and jokes can be, see Exhibit A, you don't want your game to stagnate. Ideally, you make a game that the whole family can enjoy, even the dog. And I think the first Star Wars game in this series did just that. My dog loved it. Okay, if I had a dog, he would have loved it. The creators managed to somehow make a beautiful cinematic experience that is self-contained, but it still feels like it's part of the Star Wars universe. And they could have stopped there, but they didn't. They challenged themselves. They also made it fun to play. You hear that, Death Stranding? You can do both. But when the story of the first one concluded, my initial thought was, man, that was beautiful, but where do we go from here? And you know what? I think the writers had this thought as well. Because, and I will spoil the first one from here, so if you want to see that one first, go see my other video. But this is because the first one ended when the group of lost individuals that went through hardships eventually grew closer together and became a family. Sure, the state of the galaxy was going worse and worse, but at least they were in it together. So what if they weren't? What if they pulled a Scooby-Doo and have the gang split up? The game doesn't open with everyone, just with Cal Kestis being taken as a prisoner on the Empire capital of Coruscant to be seen by a guy that is very important to the story. Okay, I lied. He was killed very soon after he was shown for the first time by one of the sisters that was a boss fight in the first game? I thought she was dead. How did she survive the fall from the first game? You know what, that's fine. At least I get to see a familiar face again. Oh, she dies after a boss fight with Cal a few minutes after she appears? Never mind, I guess I'll just speak about how Cal ended up without his team and that he had to form a new team of misfits that rebelled against the Empire and... Oh, they died too. Guys, please, can I speak about anyone without them dying? What is this, an Attack on Titan episode? Cal might have grown up, but he just reached his emo phase as he is not doing too well. Apparently, everyone of his former crew, besides BD, decided to take their own path. Grease saw that one episode in How I Met Your Mother and decided having a pub is the coolest thing a guy can do. Merrin had to go her own way. Across the galaxy and Seret took a different approach to fighting the Empire. A more non-direct one. To create a hidden society that could grow in power before fighting the Empire head-on. The Illuminati. Okay, so then what could the story of this sequel even be then? No, seriously, what is it? For a big portion of the game, I was left wondering just that. What is Cal's purpose? You can't really make him fight the Empire and make any meaningful progress, as that wouldn't work with the continuity. I don't know much about the Star Wars movies, but I do know that the Empire still needs to be an Empire, otherwise Luke won't meet his father. The answer? You have Cal discover this planet that is surrounded by so many dangers that it makes traveling to it nigh impossible, so you create a perfectly hidden place for Cal and his pals to hide on. Because after barely escaping Coruscant, Cal reached the planet where Grease created his pub. And on this planet, I discovered something that did not surprise me whatsoever. That I was really wrong in my previous video. So in that video I was talking about how people told me that the game happens in a different era, one that I haven't seen so far, the High Republic. But I understood that wrong. The game did not happen during the High Republic, neither does this. But the story does revolve around it. And I'm glad it does, and you know why? So that I won't feel left out for not knowing anything about what is happening. Because from the sound of it, this High Republic is something that they introduced very recently in the Star Wars lore. And from the glimpses I got from this game, it looks like this was a golden era for the Jedi, a more peaceful time. The main characters introduced in this era are two Jedis, Santari Khri and Dagan Gera. Khri seems to have found this planet and a way to reach it safely, but in order to do so, she required the help of Dagan Gera. Together, they built this sanctuary where Jedis can come and learn to be Jedis. Sanctuary from what, you're asking? I have no idea because I thought this was a peaceful time. You know what, maybe I'm just stupid, but the game doesn't even make it clear as to why this even caused a conflict. Because the Jedi Council not only did not like this, but they outright forbid it, which caused Dagon to fall to the dark side as the key to going to that planet was taken away, so he went to retrieve it. This culminated with Dagon getting into an argument with Kree, who cut one of his arms and put him in a Bacta, or Kolto, I don't know the difference, one of these tanks to heal him and hit him away from the Council to retrieve him later. I think. Listen, it's very confusing. The timeline is also quite confusing because we are told that this High Republic was attacked by some alien species from the unknown parts of the galaxy, the Nihils. But I don't know if that was after Dagon was put into the tank or before. I think it was after, hence why Kree never got to release him from the healing tank, but Cal did. He was so happy to find another Jedi brethren. He had so much to tell him about what has happened since when he went into his slumber. But Dagon wasn't too interested in that, as he was tinkering at his lightsaber crystal to turn it red, and I didn't know you could do that. I thought you either had to find a crystal with that color, or that it turns red depending on your emotions or something, but I guess all the Sith just thought that the red color looked cooler, so they decided that's their color? Now, I don't know how people feel about this High Republic. I need you guys to let me know in the comments. Let's have two camps. One that defend it and one that critique it. But for me, I know how I feel. Salty. I just finished playing the Old Republic and this made me think about it. You mean to tell me that they created this whole new republic in the last, what, 5 years? And it's technically canon? Meanwhile, the Old Republic is a concept that had like, what, 30 years to develop, and the best we get is apparently a hint that it exists from one of the newer Star Wars shows? Not to say that I didn't like the characters. My boy Dagon was aura farming so much he started reminding me of Sasuke based on the way he speaks.
If Centauri had only stood with me, we could have convinced the Council that Tanalor was worth the sacrifice. Now she's gone. Ravis is gone. The Order is gone, and I am free!
Like, look at this guy missing an arm but still dual-wielding lightsabers. He's no Archon in terms of design, but still impressive. So the story takes Cal to different planets, meeting up with the whole family again and learning what they have been up to. But it's not just the old family, because one person did manage to survive the escape from Coruscant. The newest recruit, Bode, a mercenary recruited by Cal's team to help with various missions. I liked his story. He didn't really care about fighting for the Empire or against it. He's just a father trying to earn credits to keep his daughter safe from all this endless fighting in the galaxy. Tell me how that is not completely understandable. Not everyone will fight the big fight, and that is completely fair in my view. Given this though, he did join Cal in his journey to find his planet, as both him and Cal shared the same goal: to find a safe haven from all this fighting. But Cal's goals shift throughout the story. Just like how mine did now, from talking about the story to talking about this weird subscribe button that popped up in the video. Sheesh, get out of here. What initially started as him just wanting to hide away until there's a better time to fight against the Empire, changed into maybe using this planet as a place to actively hide people who are fighting and recruiting Force-sensitive people to train them as Jedis. This change is what would eventually create the actual conflict of the story. Because at one point in the story, Cal managed to defeat Dagon. And if up until that point I was not too invested in the story as much as I was in the first one, the game does something unique. You have this really hard battle against Dagon where he pushes you to the limits. But you have trained for this final battle. You have learned how to dodge, how to parry. He's not only forcing your hand, he's also forcing his own hand in order to dual wield. But still, you push through. And with the help of your friends, Bode and BD, you manage to defeat him. And then what should have been the happy end turns into a nightmare. Because as everyone celebrates their victory under the night sky, Bode seems concerned, distracted. And let me tell you, that does not bode well for the story. So the day after, as you go to meet with Ento Cordova, which, by the way, am I the only one who thought that all the holograms he left in the first game meant that he was dead? Well, at least now we know for sure. Yeah, Bode betrayed everyone. He not only stole the key to reaching the planet safely, but also told the Empire about the location of this hideout. And the trigger? Cal's decision to not keep it only as a safe planet, but as a base of operation against the Empire. Because Bode wants to keep his daughter safe. And after chasing him down, Cal has a boss fight against Bode, and something interesting happened from a gameplay standpoint. I will speak more about the gameplay in a bit, but this is interesting to mention. I fought Bode a bit, but he was quite strong. Too strong. And this is nothing new for this game. Sometimes bosses take a few attempts in order to learn their attack patterns, but this time I didn't have a second chance. I got defeated, pushed off a ledge and blacked out as Cal. I was meant to lose. Because the next thing that happened was playing as Serra Yunda defending the hideout from massive hordes of enemies from the Empire. From this point onwards, the game kept me locked in. And it wasn't just a story either, because after fighting off the hordes of invaders, a familiar face appeared to fight Saren. Oh my god, look! It's the guy from LEGO Star Wars! And this time, there was no running from him. The previous game was amazing at showing how strong Vader is in the eyes of normal troops or even Jedis. And playing through that, you also learned that. So seeing a health bar pop up on top of the screen will of course get you excited. And scared. This was by far the hardest boss to defeat in the game for me. He does not leave room for error or breathing. Quite the opposite actually. He takes away both the room and the breath as he pulls you towards him and force chokes you. And he doesn't just have 1, 2 or 3 phases. No, this guy kept changing his attack patterns constantly. And all the upgrades you had on Cal before that could help in this fight? Gone. The playstyle you might have also gotten used to with the choice of the lightsaber? Possibly gone too. This was brutal in every possible way. I spent more time in this fight than I did in any other of the bosses in either of the games. So much so that at one point the dark side started taking a hold of me. I could do it. The option is right there. I just have to give in to the temptation. I just have to lower the game difficulty. No, what kind of a Jedi would I be? I cannot do it. And so I kept trying, kept dying, over and over and over again. Until I got into a more promising fight. This time it was going well. I kept attacking, pressing, not retreating at all, and after a few minutes, I locked in and I went in for the final blow and the game crashed. My whole Windows crashed. Seriously? Yeah, this is a picture I took with my phone quickly when it happened. I am so glad the recording didn't get fully corrupted. Unless I find out that I did whilst editing this, in which case you are now seeing another form of Star Wars. I don't know, let's see, Chicken Invaders, there you go. But the final minutes of this fight did get corrupted. The final slash you are seeing here, he was 1 HP left, I had it. His swing was slower than mine, I was closer to hitting him. But no, Vader apparently is so strong that he crashed my whole operating system just to not defeat him. And you know what? Fair play, Vader. Fair play. So after I got back into the game, I continued my attempts at beating him, and at one point I managed to do it. Now, of course, you can't really beat Vader, and Serra Yunda found that out the hard way. But she did put up a really good fight, as even though Darth Vader survived, he did not show up in this game after this fight, as he needed time to recover from it. This was a tragedy. Serra Yunda sacrificed her life to give time for the others in the hideout to escape. Cal now had to live with the fact that because he brought Bo to the team, all this happened. It's something that he had to deal with since the start of the game, that everyone he is with might end up dying because of him. But he had no time for sorrow at that moment, only anger, which takes Cal to an Imperial spaceship where he meets with Lank Tevik, the guy behind all of this. Bode was no mercenary. He was a Jedi working for the Council in the intelligence branch before the Order 66. And when this all started, he went into hiding and found a woman she fell in love with and had a child. But after his wife got found and murdered by one of the Inquisitors, he had to make a tough decision. He became Lank's puppet in exchange for Lank keeping his daughter and him hidden in the base. Now, I don't know how people feel about Bolt's character, but whether you think he was right or wrong to think that way, I think he was at least realistic. He didn't do it because he was power hungry or revenge, but simply because that is the only way he saw to protect his daughter. And after Cal managed to infiltrate the place where his daughter was hiding, Bolt makes an appearance, explains everything to Cal and runs away. At this point, Cal was furious. And you can see that in multiple ways, some even subtle. Like, when you go and meditate during these sections, the area that gets shown isn't a calm blue place anymore, it's all red. Cal's powers also got more destructive. He did get more powerful, but he tapped into something dangerous for it. Anger. Now, of course, Merrin is there to bring him back to the light side, but I think this shows the potential of Cal dealing with the dark side, which may be something that will be explored in the next game. For this one though, it was stopped before it was too late. And the final boss was not a massive threat that could destroy the galaxy. No, it was just a father doing what he thought was right to keep his daughter safe. Of course, this decision already killed hundreds or possibly thousands, but he wasn't blind to it. He knew the consequences of his actions and still decided to do them. And I think that's what made him a great character. And I say made because unfortunately, Cal and Merrin were not able to change his mind, and in the end, he pulled a Frieza and died as a result. The story of this game was beautiful. It did take a while to establish itself, but in the end it got me excited to see where Cal's story goes from here. I do hope that in the next one he has to deal with the dark side more and that you get to meet more characters from the movies. I don't know how they could make it possible, but I do think that they could if they wanted to. And if you think all that sounded amazing, you need to have a sit. Wait, no, not that sit. You need to have a sit because it's about to get better. Because the gameplay was also fantastic. It took what it established in the first one and improved it a lot. I love that they didn't make Cal somehow forget everything he learned in the previous game for him to need to relearn how to double jump, how to force push, force pull, and so on. You start the game with everything you learned in the previous one and continue learning even more things in this one. And this comes with two aspects, platforming wise and combat wise. But I'm way too annoyed at the platforming side to not discuss that first. Now, I want to start by saying I loved it. The previous game felt like it had too many puzzles. You spend more than 30% of the game just figuring out how to complete puzzles rather than enjoying the game. This one doesn't do that. It still has puzzles, but not nearly as many. If you want more though, you can do side activities, so they didn't disappear. So the focus on the platforming side is not the puzzles. No, because this game is Prince of Kestis, the Lost Jedi. The things you learn how to do in this game make the platforming feel so unrestricted, so smooth. You don't just side run from one wall to another. No, you side run from one wall, then double jump and use the dash to reach a place where you can use your hook to jump on another wall to side run again. It becomes so fun to roam around the world with all the abilities unlocked, but the game has an issue. It's not stupid proof. Let me show you what I mean. My least favorite planet is the planet of Jeddah, which I have no idea if I've seen in any other games before. The start of this planet makes you play the floor is lava, which in itself was quite frustrating to go through after being stuck as to where I would need to go. I was really frustrated, but I found a bridge, so I had to get over it. There were two options, go on top of it or go under it. So I went on top of it, met up with Merrin and fought some enemies. Great, all clear. Now, where do I go from here? The marker is showing me I need to progress on top of this bridge, but there's all this rubble blocking the path. Okay, so maybe I need to go underneath? In there, you do have a place where you can climb down a wall. Under it, there is nothing but the abyss and a wind updraft that will sometimes push you back up in the air. There's also one of the bars you use to jump where you can make Cal spin around them to continue jumping towards the next platform. Right, so that is what I need to get through, right? Use the wind to jump far enough to reach that. Nope. This section got me so stuck. I spent 1 hour aimlessly trying different things that were clearly crazy, but I had no other ideas on how to proceed, so I tried them anyway. And I was so prepared to show you that it was because of something I did earlier, but looking back through the footage, I'm not even sure anymore. So the start, when I got into this place, I met with Marin, saw the enemies and thought, okay, before coming here, let me explore some other areas for some hidden treasures. So I went down instead. And as I was fooling around and jumping, I got prompted to force pull a massive metal cargo towards me, and so I did. And I thought that this was what caused this issue, but I'm not so sure anymore. Because after I realized that this might be the case, I tried reloading the game. I am so lucky that the part I loaded worked, as I went back up where Marin was and the rubble wasn't there anymore, and so I was able to proceed. But the reason I was saying I'm not sure I caused this is because looking back through the footage, the rubble was there from the first time I met with Marin, so I have no idea how it cleared up anymore. The game had some weird bugs like this. The opposite of this was me being able to skip a puzzle by pulling the item I needed through the wall. Don't mind if I do. So yeah, the platforming can be quite interesting. But the other aspect is even more interesting. The combat. Because in the previous game you had a limited amount of options for combat styles. You got one lightsaber style and double-bladed lightsabers. But in this game, straight from the start, you not only get these two, but after 2 hours into the game, you also get a double lightsaber mode. So that is amazing. You get all the lightsaber possibilities from the get-go. Wait, there's 2 more modes? What could possibly be better? It's not like they could have a Jedi hold a lightsaber in one hand and a blaster in the other. Jedis don't use gun. Oh my god, Cal is using a blaster. Yeah, this was a very unique choice. I have not played any other games where you get to have a lightsaber and a blaster at the same time. I didn't really use it too much, to be honest, but I feel like it was because by the time I got it, I already invested so much into the dual wield points that I couldn't be bothered to grind points for this as well. Same goes for the final mode, the broad light sword mode with the 2 pointy lasers ends from the new movies. The idea of having a broadsword was cool too, but I wish they made it easier to collect points to assign to the new weapons. Actually, the same goes with the abilities. The game has a massive variety this time for things you can do. Slow the time down, pull up the enemies, smash them into the ground, confuse them to fight by your side. The issue is, there's a bit too many. And by the time I finished the game, I had so many abilities I was barely using due to not having assigned any points in them. I could have grinded for them. I'm sure there's an optimal encounter you could fight over and over for some fast experience, but I just wish they came naturally. And in the end, when Cal embraced the dark side, it left me wanting even more force powers. I want him to be able to use force choke and force lightning. I really hope they will go for that route in the next game. But for this game though, I think that'll be all. I do think they managed to make even people who didn't watch the Star Wars movie enjoy it, especially if you don't care that much about the story. For me, I don't know if I would say one is better than the other. The story in the first one was better, but the gameplay in this one was so much more fun. I think they complete each other really well, and I'm looking forward to seeing the final installment in this trilogy. I'll see you there. Bye!